President Trump is shattering records for turnover in his White House. In fact, no elected first-term president has had this much cabinet turnover ever.
We have tried to keep a running tally of who's gone, who's fired, who's quit. But our bandwidth is only so wide, and the wall is full enough now that it keeps collapsing and blacking out every time we do this.
According to the Brookings Institute, Trump's A-team turnover rate is 75% so far, higher than immediate predecessors in their first terms.
There are those that are saying it's one of the finest group of people ever assembled as a candidate, as a cabinet.
Now, it is worth noting former President Ronald Reagan had more turnover overall in 2 terms. Still, President Trump is on track to outpace him. So let's go through just a few of the big names. A number of Trump cabinet members have left due to scandals. Most recently, Alexander Acosta stepping down as labor secretary following controversy over a plea deal he made with Jeffrey Epstein back in 2008 when he was a prosecutor in Florida.
I do not think it is right and fair for this administration's Labor Department to have Epstein as the focus rather than the incredible economy that we have today.
But he was by no means the first. Several officials were forced out over questions of ethical conflict and lavish spending. To name just a few, Scott Pruitt stepping down as EPA administrator amid allegations he spent more than $120,000 of taxpayer money on personal travel. Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price left over his use of private planes. Now, the president's first national security advisor, you may remember him, Michael Flynn, was fired for lying about his conversations with the Russian ambassador during the transition period. And a big name, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, was forced out the day after Democrats took back the House of Representatives in the midterm elections after months of the president railing against him for recusing himself in the Russia investigation. You may remember all of those tweets. Now, numerous officials left amid souring relationships with the president himself, including Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, his first Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus, and second Chief of Staff, John Kelly. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was fired amid tensions, including an NBC News report, which you may recall over the summer, the secretary pondered possibly quitting. He was talked out of it by a number of top administration officials. At one point, he referred to the president as a moron. And there were even some who essentially resigned in protest. At the top of that list, one of the biggest names, the president's first defense secretary, Jim Mattis, who said he disagreed with the president's decision to withdraw American forces from Syria with no real plan. Of course, there are some big names who've resigned who are still supporters of the president, from former press secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders to former UN ambassador Nikki Haley. Some big names there. His former communications director, Anthony Scaramucci, who was fired after only 11 days on the job. But he's generally been supportive of the president and his policies. That is, until last week, when Scaramucci started criticizing Mr. Trump and even calling for a change at the top of the ticket.
I can't think of anything less American, Stephanie, than bullying people and being the American president and using your Twitter feed to call out your fellow citizens on Twitter.
Fireworks there, the president firing back, calling Scaramucci, quote, totally incapable. Now, let's take a step back and take a look at the broader impact of all of this. The Trump administration is fraught with vacancies and people serving in acting roles at very high levels at a moment when the president is dealing with a number of major challenges, everything from the crisis at the border to the economy and North Korea.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.